radio.
Living by the word radio.
Broadcasting faith, truth, and inspiration throughout the Caribbean and beyond. Faith, truth, inspiration.
You're listening and viewing Living by the Word Radio.
Living by the word radio.
Where faith comes alive.
Living by the word radio.
Living by the word radio.
Broadcasting faith, truth, and inspiration throughout the Caribbean and beyond. Faith, truth, inspiration.
You're listening and viewing Living by the Word Radio.
Living by the word radio.
Where faith comes alive.
Living by the word radio.
Living by the word radio.
Broadcasting faith, truth, and
This is my breakout moment.
Better days are
Before me,
no more chains, I'm finally free.
stepping into victory. We're breaking out, we're breaking through.
This is our
Finest hour.
breaking out of depression.
Listen to and viewed worldwide.
On Living by the Word with Andy Charles and Gabriella Woods.
Every Tuesday at 6:30.
Breaking out,
Breaking through. I am free. This is my breakout moment.
better days are
Before me,
no more chains, I'm finally free.
stepping into victory. We're breaking out, we're breaking through.
This is our
Finest hour.
breaking out of depression.
Listen
God is your keeper. So, I'm about to introduce our guests at this moment. And before I do so, let me just say this. I think we are quite privileged on this episode, particularly, to have Jennifer K. Hill join us because I know that she has quite a busy schedule. She's in high demand in her level of profession and her expertise and her genre. But we are quite humbled, and I want her to know this. We are quite humbled that she has taken the time to share her expertise with us and also a very telling personal experience that I know would bring tremendous inspiration to our listeners. So, let me just tell you a bit about Jennifer before we introduce her. Jennifer Cahill is a successful entrepreneur, evolutionary leader, author, speaker, TV and radio host, and thought leader. She has written two books and has authored two popular white papers. Jennifer loves to give back and has built two schools in third world countries. She's also involved in a company, SASS company, that uses their proprietary algorithm to increase retention rates and revenues and lower churn rates in the mental health and wellness space. She says, I love helping others, especially entrepreneurs, and I can't wait to help you on your business journey. So, Jennifer, you're going to be helping us with much more than our business journey because we're going to focus on the episode, and the episode is entitled hmm, Breaking Out of Depression, Resilience and Recovery with Jenny Cahill. I just shortened it up a bit there. So, can we have Miss Jennifer Cahill live? There we go. How are you?
Hi there, Andy. It's a pleasure to be with you and your audience. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and to share your amazing story and your expertise with us. I know that we have spoken before, and you mentioned something that sort of hit me by surprise a bit, but it also is a revelation of the fact that people can go through tough times and still overcome because of that human spirit, that human strength that God has given unto all of us, that level of resilience that we can overcome situations and then we can have something to say that would help people who may be in similar situations. We're going to get to that in a moment. But before we do that, just help our audience understand what is Jennifer Cahill all about. Just tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Andy. It's given everything I've gone through as a human being, it's almost humbling, to use your word earlier, to share the journey I've had. I feel so lucky more than anything, Andy, to be alive today. As you know, we talked a little bit about before we did this show. I tried to take my own life 3 times between the ages of 18 and 21, and very close to being successful in 2 of those attempts. So it's by the sheer will of God and miracles, whatever you prefer to call it, that I'm here with you today. And the whole first part of my life and my journey, I didn't know at the time I was autistic. I only found out about 6, 7 years ago. And so most of my younger life, my young adult life, I like to say, Andy, it's like you got a book on how to be a human being, and you got a book on how to be a human being. And I opened my book, my little manual on how to be a human, and mine was blank inside. And
Hmm.
that was part of what led to the existential crisis of loneliness that I faced myself. And then, my gosh, I have such deep empathy and compassion for the world. I was just reading a statistic, I think 24% of all people surveyed across 146 different countries feel either very or highly lonely. And it's this crisis that we're all faced with as human beings. And I see that our individual journey is often mirrored in the journey of the greater whole of the world, the micro and the macro. And so I feel deeply empathetic for all of us who are going through this loneliness epidemic together, this lack of intimacy. And it's our dream, it's my dream with everything I do, whether it's coaching clients, speaking on shows like this, with our company OptiMatch, App. And my only intention in the rest of my life, Andy, is to cultivate greater coherence and alignment between people and to reverse what I call the accidental adversary between us as humans. So that's my dream, that's our vision, is to help create greater connection among people.
Absolutely fascinating. And we thank you for sharing. I could feel the passion in your voice, Jennifer. That is so wonderful. It's warm and it's refreshing.
Hmm.
You've had the experience of bouncing back on 3 occasions. You said 2 times a little closer than you would like to have been. What do you feel that you can contribute to someone who may be in a position? And you spoke about loneliness and you give some stats. And we know there are a lot of lonely people in the world for several reasons. So many things happening: wars, rumors of wars, famines, you name it. But if people were to reach a position where they can actually draw from something based on your experience, that emotional drag down, how do you find the strength within you? And you use the word miracle. How do you find the strength within you, Jennifer, to say to yourself, I can do better? There's another way. And then you find that resilience to bounce back and look what you have accomplished.
Hmm.
How would you put that together to help someone who may have similar thoughts or similar experiences and looking for a way out?
A few points here, Andy. I'm going to carry the torch, for lack of a better word, of my dear friend and mentor who got me through one of my latest dark nights of the soul and depressive episodes that was, quite frankly, soul crushing.
Hmm.
In 2018, I had just sold my first company and we got acquired. We had been a small little familial 5, 6 person company and, got acquired by a 3,000 person company. So I was going through a crisis around that. At the same time, that same year, I chose to leave my ex husband of 14 years. And around that time, my dear friend and mentor, who I was referring to holding the torch of, Dr. Mark Golston, who, God rest his soul, passed away on December 31st of 2023,
Hmm.
literally saved my life and saved
Wow.
so many other people's lives. During that period, when I was going through, I didn't think I was going to survive it. Well, also, Mark diagnosed me. He's the first one to ever diagnose me of being on the spectrum. So I'm going through divorce, change
Hmm.
completely in my career. And then one day, Mark and I are sitting in his office, and he says, Jennifer, my friend, I love you and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, though there's a high likelihood that you're high functioning on the spectrum and neurodiverse. And I was like, what? I didn't even understand what any of these words meant.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I remember Mark told me something very helpful. Mark never lost a single patient in the 50 plus, 40, 50 plus years of his career. Not once did he ever lose a patient to suicide. And so there were two parts to this. One, Mark held my hand through it. And when I remember I was having a particularly challenging night shortly after I had really asked my ex-husband for a divorce, and I didn't think I'd make it, Andy. I remember I was on the floor of my house in LA, and I had plenty of sleeping pills, and I could have easily killed myself. And I remember just sitting there and fighting with God, fighting with myself, and fighting with like whatever higher power you want to call it. Just saying, I can't, give me the strength. And Mark's voice came in my head. And he
Mm.
said to me something beautiful that I've since worked with a lot of clients on, and I tell people who are struggling with this, which if you have somebody at any point in your life who you've loved and trusted, like Mark was my dear friend and mentor and father figure, he said, Jennifer, I want you to imagine my voice in your head just saying, stop it, just stop it, and then
Yeah.
redirect that thought. And so that was so powerful to get me off my knees and to not have another attempt to take my own life. And
Mm-hmm.
instead, I just forced myself to go to bed, prayed like hell for, for guidance from God. I said, God, I can't do this. And that's really been another cornerstone, in addition to having wonderful friends and mentors like Mark. The other cornerstone for me has been Kabbalah and my faith in, the universe, God, whatever you choose to call it. Being able to have had my Kabbalistic teacher earlier that year say, I give you permission to fight with God. And if you're feeling really low, you have every right to yell, scream, fight with God and say, God, help. And that's exactly what I was doing. I remember just sobbing and pounding my fists on the ground saying, I can't do this. I'm not going to survive this. Please help. Please, please, please help. So, part one of that is, if you're going through this, see if there's some mentor out there, some person. I love a friend of mine, Deepak Chopra, who's a famous thought leader in the spiritual space. He has a project I'm very passionate about called neveralone.love. And one of the board members of that, Gabriella Wright, who's a famous actress, Gabriella lost her sister to
Mm-hmm.
cancer, or sorry, to pardon me, to suicide. And
Yeah.
so they created a robot, an AI, to help people who are lonely called Peewee, that has already helped prevent tens of thousands of suicides just by having communication. So whether it's a person, whether it's a safe space you can go to, see if number one, you can find someone or some avenue to feel a little less lonely when you need it. And if you are someone who maybe you've struggled with depression in the past and you have loved ones who you know are struggling, I do this for other friends who I know struggle with depression. I'll just ping them randomly. You get that heart spidey sense where your heart just feels a pang of love for somebody that you know might be struggling, and just shooting them that text, a voice text, a phone call, can literally save somebody else's life. And sharing our own stories. A story much like this, I was sharing on one of the shows that I'm a part of called Awakening World and the Global Peace Tribe. I
Mm-hmm.
had never gotten to meet our members. It had always been online for the last 4 years. And one day I found myself in LA, and I didn't realize that a lot of that community was meeting in person.
Yeah.
So I happened to pop by just outside of LAX airport, and there are a lot of our audience members, hundreds of people who I'd never had the pleasure of meeting in person. And I only had a few minutes to stop by, so I give a few hugs. And as I'm like hugging people and on my way out, I'm ordering an Uber, and this woman comes up to me and she's crying. And I said, oh my gosh, are you okay, miss? And she said, you saved my sister's life. And I said,
Wow.
excuse me? She said, yeah, my sister saw you on an Awakening World show where you shared how you tried to kill yourself and how you found the strength and resilience to get past it. And she's still with us because you shared.
My God. Wow.
So you
Ah.
never know. The one
Yeah.
story. That's why I don't care. I'll do this anytime, day or night. If we can just
Yeah.
help one other person, lend one ear, one
Yeah.
act of kindness, even a smile. So
Yes.
many of us, that was one of my favorite Kabbalistic things I learned, Andy, about depression, of dumping depression, is when we're in a really depressed, low state, do an act of kindness. See if you can get
Mm.
out of your own head,
Oh yes. Oh
offer
yes.
to help somebody else, offer to do anything. In fact, I was just reading to another friend of mine who struggles tremendously with depression, and I'll tell you what I sent him. This is from Kabbalah, and it's one of the names of God for dumping depression. And it says, Ascending the spiritual ladder requires far more greatness and strength than conquering nations, building empires, or attaining great wealth. The negative forces, which could be called our ego, that dwell inside of us and in the world use a two-step process against us. Number one, they make us fall. And number two, they keep us down through feelings of guilt and depression over our setbacks. Getting up again generates greater spiritual light in the world than if we had never fallen in the first place. And I
Wow.
always like to remind people of that.
Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful. I am so touched. I am moved. Absolutely. I have two comments from Gracie Vincent, and I want them up on the screen. The first one is, God bless you. You are a life saver. That's
Mm,
for Jennifer. And the other one says, you touch many lives.
mm.
So you're continuing with the thing that God has blessed you to do, and we are so grateful and thankful that you are here to share with us. Now, I want to make you smile a little bit. Hopefully, I can. And this is an amazing headshot, Jennifer. Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Wow. What is this picture saying? Look at that tremendous smile. There's so much glow in the cheeks, so much life in the eyes. What is this headshot saying? What is this picture saying?
This picture is saying I've made it and I found
Ah,
happiness.
mm,
And in fact, I'm doing a talk next week in Porto, Portugal, what I like
uh-huh,
to call cracking the code of human connection. And I
uh-huh.
talk about how, whether we're talking about depression or fulfillment in the biggest secret of what I like to call the golden triangle, the
Mhm,
first in ascending the ladder of action and purpose is to connect to ourselves, Andy. And that's truly what's missing for us as human beings. The reason
mhm.
we feel so lonely or so crushed when we lose one, when we
Yeah.
feel sad, when we go through a breakup or lose a job, is because we have it that something or someone out there is
Hmm.
responsible for our happiness and our joy. Yet, just like you saw in that photo, when I started to cultivate, thanks to the love and dear friendship of two of my friends, in addition to Mark Golston, shout out to Jules and Wendy, who both taught me inner child work at the same time about 6, 7 years ago, that catalyzed me, Andy, into a place where every day now I spend time quietly. Right after I meditate, I put my right hand on my heart and my left hand on my abdomen. Talk to a younger version of me that I call Sweetheart, who's about 5 years old. And doing this every day is mind blowing because for me, being on the spectrum, I really with connection to my own emotions and those of others. So one of the tools I do is at the end of every morning, I go and I say, "Sweetheart, how are you feeling?" And what blows my mind, Andy, is sometimes she's depressed or she's sad or she's feeling angry or anxious, yet 43-year-old Jennifer sitting here in front of you is completely oblivious because there's that disconnect from the heart, the
Yeah.
mind, the body, and the spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm a huge advocate of inner child work, and it has been instrumental in my life. I coach CEOs on it. It's been so humbling to get to share with people these tools and to watch really powerful men and women connect to themselves and then provide themselves with what they need, the mercy of their job, their employees, their spouse. They get to provide the love to themselves that they always wish they had.
Yeah. That's deep and resonating. Jennifer, when you coach people, when you share with these thought leaders and these CEOs, what are some of the things that they say to you or they express? And I'm sure they will open up over a particular period of time based on what you're speaking. Do you find a common bond or common trend, things that they are particularly doing that challenges them that they can feel that connection, or is it a number of or a variety of things and there's differences, or is there a strain or one line that you can focus on and you know for a fact that yes, this is the thing? I mean, I've dealt with people and I see communication in so many ways, so many different avenues. But sometimes you find that with persons who are involved in a particular profession, like they are CEOs and they are masters of certain companies and so on, there's one particular thing that they are faced with. It's either the stress of dealing with a company or the stress of dealing with company and family, finding that balance with all the ecosystems that exist around them. But for the people that you deal with, what is the most common thing that you find is the greater challenge towards them having that connection and really feeling fulfilled about themselves?
I would say, Andy, that whether we're the CEO of our own life or the CEO of a company, we are all like diamonds that have these beautiful facets. That at
Hmm.
some points, certain aspects of the diamond might be shining and beautiful, points might be sharp and painful. And I would hate to lump everyone into one category. I can give you 100,000 foot view of what I've seen from entrepreneurs, CEOs. A lot of it really comes down to meaning and purpose and wanting to be of service. And then the one of the biggest opportunities for growth that I've seen in most of the CEOs, whether I'm friends with them or whether they're people I coach, is overall well-being. I think that sometimes those of us who might be thought leaders or authors or entrepreneurs or CEOs ourselves to work till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., till we've depleted our own resources. And what we don't realize is we will never be able to be the life, let alone the CEO of a company, until we can first prioritize ourselves and our needs and cherish ourselves. That's one of my favorite things that I work with CEOs on, that one of my friends taught me when I was going through the divorce 6 years ago is I owe all the wisdom that I have to wonderful teachers who have helped me. And this piece of wisdom that a friend shared with me is she said, Jen, you deserve to find someone who will cherish you, though first you have an opportunity to cherish yourself. And I think that
Hmm.
whether you're a CEO, whether you're a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, a human, if we could take that time to develop, to nurture, to cherish ourselves, no matter what facet of the diamond we might be dealing with on a given day, the fear, the imposter syndrome, the needing to control things, that really softens the edges and shine brighter.
I love the connection with regards to the diamond and the fact that we all have our diamonds at one point in time, whether it's brightly shining or it still needs to go through the pruning and the processes that make good in the store window on display. I also love the fact that you focus on cherishing oneself. And I think a lot of people, Jennifer, are challenged with finding a way to bring true, deep, and innate personal value to themselves. How did you do it? How did you count the cost and say to yourself, this life that I've given is worth so much more than I think it is right now, and it's worth saving? What was that like for you?
You're going to make me cry again, Andy.
Oh my goodness.
um, the first time before I had even tried to kill myself, I remember I had been drinking, and my best childhood friend lived not far down the bless my father, who just passed away recently. He had a bottle of vodka that he used to keep locked in his like little toolkit right in the garage. And here's my best friend and I, and we're 16 years old. And so we like sneak out there and we open the toolkit and we get our vodka and we drink it. And oftentimes, if you've ever drank, then you know alcohol might not hit you for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I go, I don't know what possesses me. I'm like 16 years old. I go to drive her home to her house 2 miles away. Oh, and most people don't even know this. I don't even know if my mom knows the true story of what happened that night. And I drove my friend and I dropped her off at our house. And I'm driving down these really windy roads covered in trees on this short 2 mile journey back to my parents' house. And I drove Andy right off the edge of a cliff. And my car was hanging upside down,
Wow.
crushed, completely totaled on the edge of this ravine. And I remember climbing, like literally climbing up the side of this cliff with like my nails and branches. And I got to the top, and somehow or another fire trucks were there pretty quickly. It was heartbreaking. Firefighter in the town where this happened. And I got to the top, Andy, and I didn't have a scratch on me. I
Wow.
didn't have a single
Wow.
scratch.
Wow. Wow.
And so I went on to try to kill myself and take that miracle for granted. It blows my mind. But now, as a 43-year-old woman who has had more miracles in this lifetime than anybody could ask in 100 lifetimes, I wake up every day and I just ask to be of service. And I look myself in the mirror and thank you to one of my other teachers who was instrumental in my growth as well, Arthur Samuel Joseph. He taught me a decade ago to look at myself in the mirror every day and to love you.
Yeah.
Make eye contact with yourself and say, I love you. I'm
Yes.
proud of you. And so even if you do our child work or any of the other stuff, simply that act of looking at yourself and saying, I love you to yourself in the mirror, it can be hard. You might look away, you might cry, though it's this intimacy, really, Andy, it's the intimacy epidemic that is killing us all one by one. It's killing us all with addiction, with distraction, with depression. There has been a crack in this ability for intimacy. And last year, I was doing a meditation. I've meditated now for 11 years straight, never missed a day. And once every blue moon, dead sober, no plant medicine involved, I'll be doing a meditation. I'll be listening to a piece of music and I'll be shown a beautiful vision. And this happened to me last year. I'm listening to one of my favorite songs, Estes Tone, Inner Worlds. I highly recommend it. It's very evocative and just helps you to feel things you might not otherwise feel. So I love to dance to it and sometimes to meditate to it. So I'm
Hmm.
with a group of 10 women and we're all meditating. Estes Tone, the music is crescendo moment, Andy. I dropped out of space and time and I was shown this beautiful image of all of the whole world. And it was akin to kintsugi. Are you familiar with art, Charles? Oh,
Yeah.
and have you ever heard of that? Yeah. So, kintsugi art is the art of taking something that's broken and putting 14 or 24 karat gold into the broken
Yeah.
pieces to reconnect it.
Hmm.
And I'll always remember the vision that night. I was shown that we too are like a broken plate or a broken
Mm.
dish, and
Yeah.
that the whole world is shattered into all these little pieces. And that in lieu of kintsugi gold, instead of using 14 karat gold, that
Yeah.
the 14 karat gold is unconditional love. And if we were to use that, the bits back together, and to use that as the glue, then we could rebuild the world anew.
Wow. On that note, um, I'm not gonna even comment on that. But we have Crystal Constant. She says, "What a profound. I never looked at loving oneself this way. Caring for your inner child. Thank you for sharing that, Jennifer." Wow. And then Gracie says, "God spoken to you, sis. You're very strong, so you can be anything you want to. God spoken again." Wonderful. Keep the comments coming. If you have any questions for Jennifer, she's here for that purpose as well as we continue with this episode. I want to take a quick break now and give us the thought for the week. And so, Jennifer, you can breathe easy for a moment. I just want to give us the thought for the week. I hope it would come up on the screen. There you go. It says, "We were not created to be stewards of power, but for the purpose of being servants to each other." I want to repeat that again. The thought for the week. We were not created to be stewards of power, but for the purpose of being servants to each other. And every individual that has been created has that opportunity to serve another individual, another human being like themselves. That's when you know that your life is full of purpose, meaning, and value. And that is the thing that we spread here and share in this community as we continue with breaking out of depression. So, on a lighter note, I want to share something with us on the screen. See if I can bring it up. There you go. 101 Spiritual Tools for Uncertain Times, book 1 of 10 by Jennifer K. Hill. Jennifer, tell us a bit about this publication.
Mm. It was COVID, Andy, and I was sitting by myself. I spent completely by myself, isolated, aside from a Zoom call here or there in London. And I remember one day I was so deeply grateful that I was doing talking to a lot of friends around the world who were depressed, fearful, sad. And one day, as I was in my meditation, I get a download from God of the universe. Says, God says to me, Jennifer, you're going to share 101 tools with people for uncertain times. And I was like, what? God, I don't know 101. And then the next thing you know, I'm sitting there, Andy, and I just start writing them down. And then I just started channeling all these amazing tools. And if you follow me on social, I
Hmm.
actually posted 188 tools of
Wow.
all sorts of some of my favorite. So you can find it at Jennifer K. Hill on TikTok. I posted them there, or at Jen Hill Speaker on Instagram. And
Yeah.
so I did that for basically almost a full year. I was posting these videos for about 6 months of compliment the book. And I just feel so grateful. I mean, people, here's an analogy I'll actually give you around it, Andy. You know how there's the superhero Batman? Have you ever heard of Batman?
Yep.
I know I was doing this talk in India. I was doing a talk about this in India, and people are like, Batman, who? So, Batman, if for anybody watching, depending on where in the world you are, is a superhero. However, the interesting thing about Batman, he is one of, if not the only, superheroes who is not superhuman. In other
Mm,
words, he's not like from another planet. He doesn't have any of that. But you
yeah.
know what makes Batman a superhero? His super tool belt. And so
Mm,
that way, if you find yourself falling off a physical cliff, a metaphorical cliff, my purpose, Andy, is to give people for resilience and for self-care so that way you'll be like Batman with your super bat belt and you can like use one of those nifty little tools like inner child work, heart focused breathing, meditation, mindfulness, a whole myriad of things that I talk about, and using these gives you the superpowers to be able to overcome any adversity or challenge that you might be faced with.
yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Love it. Thank you for sharing it. Appreciate it. Wow. And I'm thinking, this is just book one, Jennifer.
Book is written. It's a, you know what, Andy? There are none of ours reading another book right now, a business book on
Uh-huh.
heart focused leadership. Book two of the 10 books in the series is already written. I
Okay.
just need more hours in a day. The secret I've decided is to clone myself. And I do normally love one of my other favorite tools is spending time in silence. And so thank you. Shout out to Sister Jenna and Deepak who taught me that one. However, it's been such a robust last month or so. I don't know if any of you have felt that, but my calendar one day, Andy, and I had 12 calls in one day. How I even was able to fit 12 calls in one day was like,
Wow.
what? So normally on a Saturday or on a Sunday, I would spend 3 hours to a whole day in silence with my phone off. And I
Yeah.
haven't even given myself permission to do that lately. So I do encourage people, even if it's just 1 minute a day or 5 or 10 minutes, giving ourselves permission to spend time in silence then opens up our creativity. And so I say all of that to say I have not prioritized publishing the other books.
Okay. I will take you up on that sometime, maybe in the future. I will just gently remind you. So I'm looking at your information, and it's really intriguing that on the Awake TV network, you had the opportunity, I should say, the privilege of interviewing Deepak Chopra.
Mm.
I remember listening to him speak, and the one thing that he said that remains with me is that he said one of the reasons why so many people lose themselves in the material things of this world and they don't find fulfillment, they don't find value, they don't find a sense of purpose is that we have all suddenly become human doings
Mm.
instead of human beings. And that stayed with me. What is the one thing that you can recall, if you can remember? What was it like interviewing this guy and what resonated with you the most? because I know that he would have said so many profound things about life, fulfillment, hope, depression, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm very thankful, Andy, that he actually became a friend of mine. So we didn't just do one interview, we've done 20 interviews. You can
Wow.
find two of our most recent interviews on our Regarding Consciousness podcast. So you can either go to Regarding Consciousness, you can find them on my YouTube channel at Jennifer K. Hill. I've
Hmm.
been so privileged and honored to get to consider people like Deepak and Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, Irvin Laszlo. All these luminaries have become friends of mine over the last 4 years. So Deepak, gosh, it's it's almost impossible to encapsulate some of
Hmm.
Deepak's deepest wisdoms. I remember an interesting one that actually does tie into depression. We were doing the show, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and Deepak was talking about the microbiome of the gut. Now, I don't know about you, but I never personally realized how our microbiome of our gut is directly correlated to our mental health and well being. And I
Wow.
remember Deepak said something profound. He said, if enough of us healed the microbiome of our gut, we would heal the ecosystem of the planet. And
Hmm.
it was like that whole microcosm, macrocosm thing. And there was another episode that we did where he reflected upon, I think it was a type of rice, where in India, they changed one thing. They went in and they changed something in a certain area where they changed the type of rice. And it impacted the bees, impacted the plants, created a whole market crash. And what I really got out of that particular episode we did is the interconnectedness of all things. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Deepak and my mutual best friend, or sorry, dear friend, Don Hoffman. They'll actually be speaking at a conference coming up in Tucson in a couple of weeks. Don wrote a book called The Case Against Reality: Why Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes.
Hmm.
And in a recent episode that Deepak and Don and I did, we were talking about this theory that Don has of conscious agents. And the theory is that we are all conscious agents, and that some of us are projected into the theater of space-time and some are not, which gives us the experience of being alive versus not being here. And
Hmm.
essentially, it was fascinating from Don Hoffman to hear it from him as a scientist,
Yeah.
saying that we all came from one source, and this one source is consciousness, which is fundamental, which expresses itself as every human being, as you, as me, as Gracie, as Christelle. And one of the things Don and I were talking about over lunch last year, we were sitting down in Irvine, and I said, Don, I don't get it. If we're all consciousness, why are some of us so impoverished, in pain? Why do children die? Please, Don, help me understand why this would happen. And it was so beautiful what Don shared with me. What he shared, Andy, was he said, Jennifer, if you were to look at it as consciousness, consciousness is infinite.
Hmm.
Consciousness, you could call consciousness God, whatever you prefer to call it. It is omnipotent, omniscient, it's all things everywhere. And he said, Jennifer, the one thing that God is not is limited. And so that would mean that God would want to have an experience of Andy, of Jennifer, of Gracie, of Christelle, of every single one of us having that taste of that experience of sadness, of loss, of joy, of expansion. And we're all just manifestations of that same one consciousness, experiencing it in ourselves, reflected in the people around us, which are just showing us other opportunities to connect to our own consciousness. So that really hit me deeply when Don and I spoke about that last year.
Wow. That's deep. And it takes some time to truly focus and understand the huge scientific value of what he's saying. We often find ourselves uh, looking for things outside of the box, I should say, outside of the norm. And sometimes when we are in a position of authority, if we are the CEO of a company or we are the boss, an entrepreneur, we own our own company or companies, we sometimes feel that we have to exercise authority over people, exercise power over people. And in that way, we would get the response that we are looking for. But As I go back to the fact that we are servants of each other, how important it is for persons in authority who are seeking for whatever they are looking for. And sometimes I've had people that I deal with who can't really define what they're looking for. I have a simple theory, Jennifer. Before I get deeper into the question, the theory is that we all are seeking dominion of our lives in one way or the other. The problem is we are all looking for it in different directions and through
Mm.
different lenses. And I think that is where we find the clash among individuals. But then, from a simplistic point of view, how do we get leaders to understand that the first thing they should adopt is one, being able to serve because they are in a position where they have the resources to serve, and secondly, the best way that they can lead is to create other leaders like themselves.
I think before we get into that question, Andy, there's a more important thing that I want to touch on, and
Hmm.
it's the word that you just used. And you said, how can we teach leaders that they should do X and Y?
Yeah.
And should for me is a dangerous word that I'm very
Mhm.
cognizant when I use it or when clients I work with use it.
Yeah.
I remember many years ago, I was in a personal development program and they used the analogy, which I'll throw out to you today, which is we're shooting all over ourselves and others. The
Wow.
moment that we say someone, it could be a family member, should do something, a leader should do something, notice how that makes you feel as an individual and notice if it expands you or if it contracts you. And for most of us, 99% of us, if somebody tells us you should do something, it creates a resistance between you and
Mhm.
that thing. Because
Mhm.
then you're like, oh, I should, but I don't want on ourselves. We tell ourselves, I should do this. I should drink less soda. I should do that. I shouldn't do this. And there's no space or freedom in it. So, one of the things I'm an advocate of is our language and bringing consciousness to the words we use and how we use them and asking ourselves, is this what I'm actually committed to saying? So, if we could reframe the question, if I may,
Mhm.
I would invite us to say something along the lines of, have an opportunity best of our leaders and give them the choice of participating with us as human beings in this playground of leadership, of inviting them to step up and to be incredible leaders. And I will say, as somebody who didn't know how to be a leader, again, at the time, I didn't realize I was autistic. It's no excuse. So I very candidly share with people, Andy, hi, I'm Jennifer Cahill and I'm a recovering jerk or a hole or whatever you want to call it. And I just didn't know any better. I was literally the jerk, Andy, who sent this email somewhere out there, one of our old teams. I love them. We're still friends. But there was a time where I had sent an all caps email, are you all a bunch of effing morons? All in caps.
Oh, Jennifer, you can't use those words on the program.
Use F word. I said
Oh,
space.
okay.
I didn't say I would never use the
I
actual
just be, I just be very careful. Sure, carry on. Go ahead.
sorry, I would never use the actual F word. I just like was skipping over. We did a little bleep there in the middle.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yes, but are you all a bunch of morons was essentially the gist of the email. And so I tell people I was very candidly a recovering jerk, and it didn't happen until my coach about a decade ago came into my life, and he helped me to for myself and others, and to realize that we're all different. We're all trained differently as human beings, and we're all designed differently. And so, in doing so, by understanding, I think that's the biggest thing for leaders is to cultivate understanding and compassion first for themselves, then for the teams they if you can build it upon that, first connecting to the self, cultivating compassion for the self, that then allows the leader to cultivate compassion and understanding for others, then you can build something beautiful and extraordinary.
Yeah, great. And the thing about it is that when we look at what is happening currently in the world, we realize that there's a lot of compassion that seems to be absent, seems to be missing. And so I sometimes I have to wonder, is it that we don't understand what it is like to be compassionate, or is it a mirror of the lives for ourselves? And I will give you an example. I was recently interviewing a guest, and we were talking about the influence of AI, artificial intelligence. And one of the things that I observe is that we have so many people now that are skeptical about AI and what AI is doing, and it's going to take away jobs and it's going to remove the compassion, because you can actually use the AI in certain ways to replace a coach that would give you certain, but absent of the human compassion, because it's a machine. It can't express that kind of feeling, that kind of emotion. And the question that I ask is, are we afraid of what we have built because it now resembles a part of us that we didn't want to expose, but now inadvertently is being seen? Or are we afraid of the fact that what is happening now, we have to take sole responsibility because we build copies of ourselves? And I ask the same question to you because I find that so many people are involving themselves in what you said it, the imposter syndrome scenario. And instead of being themselves and appreciating themselves for who they are, hiding behind the mask of the AI, and it's creating some level of confusion. What are your thoughts on that, Jennifer? Because at the end of the day, if someone is quite depressed, it's easy to mask that and use AI. But then, are they being honest with themselves?
It's a very good question, Andy, and I'll also ask a bigger question that a friend of mine, Beth Redden, who's the CEO of a company called Bass.ai, and I were talking about on an episode we'll have coming out on regarding consciousness soon. And we were talking about the bigger issue with all AI is it was built with bias because you have older who built the AI. So therefore, Beth, I love what Beth shares in our episode and what she shared with me as a friend. She said, I want every one of us masterful at AI because if you have 1% of 1% of the population who has built this technology, it is not representative of every one of us, of people in the Caribbean, of people in Europe, of people in remote Africa and South America. You're not getting a representation, good, bad, or otherwise, in the form of artificial intelligence until we all begin to create our own AIs and build it from our own perspectives. So I think the biggest challenge for us all as the leaders, as users of AI, is this built-in bias that does not reflect the greater consciousness of the world. Using AI, I like to look at it as a friend of mine, Curtis Estes, had shared on a book that he wrote years ago called Your Life by Design. It's really beautiful. And he talks about in the book kind of like a triangle of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And he shares at the bottom of the pyramid, down here at the bottom, is the things we hate doing every day, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe we don't like writing emails, or we don't like having to create images for our bosses, or whatever it is. So that's at the bottom. Then you get up to the things right above that. It's like, oh gosh, Andy, if I had it all my way, I would not really spend much of my life. And
Hmm.
so on and so forth, till you get to the top itty bitty triangle at the very top. That is the things that light you up and bring you joy. And Howard Thurman says that don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and then go and do that because that's what this world needs is people who have come alive. And so from my perspective, tying it into Curtis Estes's, Your Life by Design and I think that more so than ever before as human beings,
Yeah.
we're going to be able to outsource the things that don't light us up and to spend more of our time cultivating and doing things that bring us joy, to Howard Thurman's point.
Yeah. And I see our producer has put up there a website, www.appcreator24.com/app. Wow, that must be the LBW radio app that we are using for those who have Android devices. Okay, great. So, Jennifer, I want to get back to you personally a little bit. And when you, in retrospect, look back over the years and see how far you have come, this amazing 43-year-old accomplisher entrepreneur, however you choose to describe what you have accomplished, when people have overcome a certain level of depression and, you know, they're in a position where now they can reflect about, wow, did this really happen to me? Did I say that? Did I do that? There's, to me, and I had my bouts of depression as well. I spoke about this many times before. To me, there's a kind of deja vu moment where you realize it's as if you're living a second, a third, a fourth life, but somehow you feel that you have a deeper connection with the Creator. And that is because you feel that you are alive to focus that purpose that you have been kept alive for out into the world. And that out of what was previously your mess, you now have a resounding message. So that even though in retrospect it may seem to be a negative part of your life, yet out of that has come something so positive, so enlightening, so inspirational, that now you can actually help people. You can share stuff with people. It has become a tool of value to you, and it has made you stronger and stronger. And that's why I use the word resilience. How do you help people to have healthy reflections about a negative past?
Hmm. A lot of that, there's so many different directions that I want to take this, Andy. Resilience is multiple prongs. It's not just a one and done sort of approach. I get asked people, Jennifer, do you still go through depression? Do you still struggle or
Mhm.
feel sad or angry or upset?
Yeah,
And the answer is yes, yes, and yes. Just as
right.
we evolve as human beings, mean that, oh, you've taken the blue pill and now you're never going to feel anxious or sad or
Mhm.
frustrated or depressed again.
Yeah.
The difference that I share with people is that the time where years ago when I was depressed, the depression would eat me. It would eat me up from the inside out and devour me. And I was at the effect of the depression, the anger, the suicidal ideation. And begin to apply some of these tools, mindfulness, inner child work, breathing techniques, journaling techniques, self discovery techniques, then what begins to happen is resilience is like a rubber band. So, whereas years ago, I would feel suicidal, anxious, depressed, and that would last like months or years or long periods. Now it can last a matter of minutes or
Mhm.
hours, and you can bounce back that much quicker. And it's important also to highlight here to give yourself permission to really feel the emotions that you're going through. If you'd like, I'm happy to share one of the techniques that I use daily. I use it every single day for myself. I teach it in a mastermind I facilitate, I teach it to clients I work with, and it's scientifically backed. A great way to take us out of our animalistic brain, our amygdala, and back
Uh,
up to our
yeah.
limbic and our prefrontal cortex. Would you like me to take you and our viewers?
I I know about that. Sounds good. Yes, it is scientifically proven to be very successful indeed.
Yes. So it's a technique by Heart Math. Have you ever heard this work, Andy?
Not much. I've heard about it. Yeah.
I love it. So I'm a huge fan. I had the privilege and honor in 2020. They asked me to host a series of TV shows with them when everything was going to hell in a handbasket and talk about depression and suicidal ideation. The show was around nurses, officers, doctors during the epidemic and how they were staying strong and fortified in the face of all of this. So one of the techniques that they were sharing that they used is heart focused breathing, which physiologically puts our brain and our heart into what's called a physiological state of coherence. And when we're in that state of coherence, we move out of our amygdala brain, which is our lower brain function of just
Mhm.
safety and survival,
Yeah,
and into our higher neocortex brain and
yeah.
have a great opportunity for connection. Would you like me to take us through that for a minute?
Sure, sure, sure.
Okay. So, with your eyes open or closed, my favorite techniques is you could literally be in the middle of an upset or argument with somebody, and I have done it that way. Trust me, I've used it years on the go. Is you can go ahead and say to somebody, with your eyes open or closed, you to focus your attention in the area heart or chest. If you're in a place where you're not driving, you could even just touch your right hand to your heart to connect there a little bit more deeply. And so I want you to imagine that your breath is flowing and out right of your heart or chest, breathing a little slower and a little deeper than usual, finding an easy rhythm that's comfortable for you. As you continue this slow, deep, heart focused breathing, imagining that your heart itself is doing the breathing, I invite you to connect to a regenerative emotion, perhaps connection, joy. My favorite is calm when I'm feeling particularly angry or stressed. And I want you to connect to a time where you felt that emotion before. You can think of a time or an image or a place where you felt that connection or calm or joy. And then let's do that 3 times, breathing in and out through the center of our heart or chest, to that calm, joy, connection, or whatever your word is in this moment. So go ahead and allow a slow, deep breath in through the center of the heart, breathing in whatever your regenerative emotion is, and then radiating that out, radiating calm, radiating joy, sending that out to the people around you. And 2 more times, breathing in slowly and breathing it out and pulsing around you with that energy. And 1 more time, breathing slowly and deeply right through the center of your heart or chest, connecting to calm or ease, joy or peace, whatever that is for you. Releasing it out. And whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and drop your hand and return to breathing normally. And if you ever want to learn more about this, I facilitate the third Saturday of every month with the Global Coherence Pulse. We offer complimentary what we call pulses in collaboration with, and there's normally anywhere from 100 to 200 of us, together live online with thousands of people joining in remotely. And we do this together to come into greater states of coherence around the world.
Yeah, wonderful. So I'm just gonna share with my producer some information. Let me see. There you go. If he can put it, if he can put it up. Let me see here. Okay. Right. So this information is with regards to how you can make contact with Jennifer either through YouTube or Instagram. Those are the two that I have available. But how can they get access to the book, the 101 book?
Oh, yeah. So if you go to 101spiritualtools.com, I highly
Hmm.
recommend clicking on the blog section. I include all the same resources from the book there in the blog for free, so you don't even have to purchase it. If you want to purchase it, you can purchase it at 101spiritualtools.com, or it's
Yeah.
available on Amazon and the Kindle, so you could find it on there as well.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Jennifer. So we are quickly coming to the end of this episode. It has been quite intriguing. I must say. And I want to remind us the thought for the week. There you go. We were not created stewards of power, but for the purpose of being servants to each other. And we to understand the concept of what I'm saying here. We were not created to be stewards of power. Seen throughout the ages in history, man cannot handle power. Absolute power, they say, that's a fact. But for the purpose of being servants to each other. That's one of our greatest calling, and it is inclusive of having the love of God for each other and appreciating everyone just for who they are. So, we have been privileged to be with Jennifer K. Hill, sharing her experience, sharing her expertise, and giving us the opportunity to understand what it was like to be deep in the darkness of helplessness, loneliness, depression, and having to come out of that, how she did it, how she overcame and rebuilt herself, rebuilt her life, and worked on success, which has brought her to her present condition where she now helps so many people. Before we go, we just have 2 minutes, but I really want to touch, Jennifer, on something that really impresses me here in regards to the schools that you have built. Let's close on that note. Tell us a bit about the schools that you have built as we come to the end of the program.
It's especially poignant for me, Andy, because my father just died on February 25th of this year, and he
We
built
empathize with you.
both those schools with me. So I
Sorry
was
to hear
so
that.
grateful and honored. It had been a dream of mine. I had read a book about 15 years ago called Half the Sky by Nicholas Kristof and his wife about how women hold up half the sky. And God bless my ex-husband. I went to bed every night crying myself to sleep reading that book, saying, how could there be atrocities in the world? How could this be happening? And one of the tenets of the book is if you build a school for $30,000, you can help boys and girls in equal amounts around the world to flourish and thrive. And God bless my ex-husband for saying to me, well, honey, why don't we just go build schools then? And that catalyzed me to go with my ex-husband and my mom and dad and I to build our first school in Nepal in 2017. And then 2 years later, by ourselves, my dad and I got to go together to Senegal and got to spend a week together in Senegal, physically building a school together. That was one of the most humbling experiences of my life. And I would not change it for the world.
There you go. What a wonderful and servant like note to end this episode of Breaking Out of Depression. We thank you so much. We thank all the comments. And Gracie Vincent has a last comment. Amen, sis. Blessings. Okay, Jennifer, you have so many, you have so many good stuff coming your way from Gracie and Constance. So we thank you all for your comments and for your continued support and commitment. It's exactly 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the dot. And we have come to this wonderful program. We're going to ask Jennifer to stick around for a minute to have a chat with our but this live version, Crystal says again, fantastic, absolutely beautiful, Jenny. Keep going. The blessing, keep being the blessing you are. Wow. Really turning it on, Jennifer. You are really turning it on. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christelle. Thank you, Grace. And all those who are Gracie, sorry, and all those who are our live audience across Facebook and the LBW Radio Network app. This is Andy Charles, your host, saying so long, Godspeed, God bless. Until next time, please do all that you can with all the breath, the strength, the life that God has given you to help yourself. And as we help each other, let's continue to do all that we can to keep breaking out of depression. Bye for now. We love you.
This is my breakout moment.
Better days are
Before me,
no more chains, I'm finally free.
stepping into victory. We're breaking out, we're breaking through.
Better days are
before me.
no more chains, I'm finally free.
Stepping,
Living by the Word Radio.
living by the word radio.
Broadcasting faith, truth, and inspiration throughout the Caribbean and beyond. Faith, truth, inspiration.
You're listening and viewing Living by the Word Radio.
Living by the Word Radio.
Where faith comes alive.